This is Uncle Martin. And on Tuesday, February, I believe it's 10th. Boy, I sure hope so. I don't want to keep bringing up dyslexia, but I should look before I start this. Yesterday was the 9th. It has to be the 10th. What is the thumbnail? The thumbnail is going to be bats and chains. Bats and chains? That doesn't sound very positive. Well, it probably wasn't for a lot of the, teachers and staff at the high school I went to in New Jersey, 1970. It was tumultuous times. I had done this about 3 years ago, but it's so imperative that maybe I do it again, but faster. Okay, so I got to digress a smidge. This involves, well, a lot of black students with bats and chains that took over my high school, my first high school. I went to 3. I went to 20 schools. I did graduate, and this is my first high school where my mom and dad graduated. My uncles graduated. Most of my family graduated from this high school. So, digressing, I got a couple parts on this, so this all makes sense for you, because it'll all come full circle, I promise. So it involves 3 altar boys. I was one, Tom was one, and Tucky was one. So that's 3 of us to where, hey, look at this guy. This guy right here. Rescue. Here you go. All right. We'll see if he eats it or buries it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Here we go. So the first day, I don't know what I did, and I have a great memory by God's grace, but I don't remember what I did to go to the principal's office and get detention for the next day. I'm racking my brains to figure out what it was. It doesn't matter, because the first day, whatever it was, I went to the principal's office, because I remember his little bald head, and I was not looking at him, I was looking behind him at the trees and the grass, and I was thinking, how nice it'd be out there, and blah, blah, blah. I just knew that I had detention the next day. Now, that was the first day of me going to school. Now, on the first day, Tucky, the other altar boy, he was beat up by a bunch of black kids, students, that circled him, and they all ganged up on him and put him in the hospital. But I didn't know it was Tucky. And to this day, I'm trying to find out what Tucky did to get circled and put in the hospital. And I didn't know it was Tucky. I just knew this guy the second day. I heard somebody got circled and the guy was in the hospital. I didn't know later it was 2 weeks in the hospital. He had a concussion. He had broken ribs. I believe a broken arm and a leg. So I didn't hear about that until later. I just know what I'm saying now is that somebody on the first day was encircled and went to the hospital. That's all I knew. Now, why did this happen? I don't know, but the second day is when Tom is involved. Now, mind you, be careful on who your friends are. The reason I say that is because if they can't get the guy that's doing the mischief, they will find the friend, who was me. I grew up with this guy since 5th grade, since grammar school. And by the way, I went to 20 schools and I did graduate. From New Jersey to Arizona, I was back and forth, but that's another story I don't want to get into. I'm just saying Tom was involved on so many things, and this one was the big one. Tom, since Tucky was beaten up put in the hospital, Tom was very upset. So the second day, Tom sells the head honcho. He was a little rebel rouser. It was Bradley Davidson. And Bradley Davidson bought this big bag of, it was white powder. Tom told me later that it was salt, and he sold it for $20, this much, to Bradley for what they did to Tucky. Now, 5 years later, I went back to Jersey. I'm on the railroad. I get the whole story that it was Tucky. I don't still know what he did. But so I said, Tom, you sold Bradley Davidson salt? And I said, what did he do? So this is what Tom says. He's down in the bathroom and watching Bradley with all the kids snorting this salt. And they're saying how wonderful it is. It's burning. Well, then they found out it wasn't what they thought it was, and Tom disappeared. That was the second day. Tom disappears. And I remember, I don't know where Tom went. He must have hitchhiked home, because Millstone, New Jersey was about 13 miles away. So now, day where I have to go to detention. But as I'm going to my homeroom, I'm going up the steps. I go up one flight, and I'm on the platform looking up at Bradley Davidson, who has his hand in his fist, and he's punching the other hand. And now, you know what that means. It means at the end of the day, you're going to have a fight, because that's what it means. Well, now you kids, you know, you're doing it right in schoolrooms. By the way, my dad and mom were teachers. They would never put up with that kind of stuff. But and now it's a different time period. It was 1970 then. You couldn't fight on school grounds, technically. But when the kids take over, no, they didn't take over the school. That's what I'm saying. The kids took, I'm going to give you a visual. They took over the school. Well, let's go with this first. With bats. They took over 3 areas with the bats. And chains. Well, these are my chains to go up to Flagstaff, which is probably you need to go skiing. Anyway, just a visual. So the kids, the black students, took over 3 areas of my high school. They took over the principal's office, which I could care less because I was just there the other day, because I had detention that day. That they took over the 3 areas of the high school. Principal's office with bats and chains, the cafeteria, the library. Those are the only 3 areas. Yeah, go figure. And I could care less, because I never ate out of the cafeteria. It was crummy food. I had been to the principal's office the day before. I could care less. And the library, I've had too many negative experiences in, as you don't know or do know if you follow me back a ways. It was never positive for me. So I digress one smidge more. This is 9th grade. We go back to when I graduated 8th grade. It was before it was in the summertime after 8th grade. I was going to go back to, I was from New Jersey going back to Arizona to see my dad, because my mom and dad divorced. Well, yeah, and they were maybe getting back together, which they did. But during that, before I took the plane back to Arizona, I was walking by a big fence that had a basketball court, and there was only one guy there, and he was a big black guy, and he was playing by himself. So I just said, hey, well, I walked by and I was looking at him. He looked at me and he wanted to know what the problem is. I said, hey, you want to play? He said, yep. So I went into the gate. We didn't shake hands or anything, but we played 3 games of basketball, which you can only do with 2 people anyway. This is, by the way, the biggest black fella that I had run into in my lifetime. And well, I I could care less. I'm just saying, I'm fearless. I just wanted to play basketball. I love basketball. So we played with two people. You can only play couple things. So we played horse and around the world. And I believe it was 2-1. I won one of them, and I believe it was on horse. You can look up how to play that. They're both great games, around the world or horse. You all know basketball players what I'm talking about. So that was it. And then I was going uptown to go get some pizza, but it was getting too dark, so I had to get back home. And I said, I can't get the pizza, but I'll tell you what, it was nice playing with you, and I got to go. Again, we didn't shake hands. He said, see you later. Man, a few words. So now we go back to the time period, what we were saying about me going up the stairs, the first flight, there's the platform, and as I'm looking up the flight of stairs, the next flight of stairs, Bradley Davison have his hand in his other hand, and he's punching it, saying, well, that means I'm going to go have to fight the guy for whatever reason at the end of school. Well, I go up the stairs, and he pushes me down. So I'm going backwards down the stairs, and the only thing that saved me was the schools that I had gone to. You know how rolling, you go down a mat and you roll back, you forward, left, your shoulders and back rolls and all. So I did that. I was going down. I hope this isn't glitchy. Let me know if it is. I'm trying to hold this steady. Really bad reception here. So I'm going backwards. As I'm going backwards down, there's this big, tall, white guy. He's a teacher. I know him. Well, he looks familiar. And he looks at me, and he didn't stop me from rolling. He just let me. He had fear in his face. He looks at Bradley, and he makes a left-hand turn. Doesn't even say, you got detention, or you're suspended, or go to the principal's office. He doesn't do any of those things. Why? Because they had already taken over the principal's office with bats and chains that I didn't know about. So as my back is against the wall, and he's still going with his hand in the fist, Bradley, I'm thinking, so what? I got detention today. There's no way people wait for you after detention. Well, guess what? This was an exception. So I get to homeroom. And I hear this different voice, because the first day I was there, I heard the principal, who I knew because I was there the first day getting detention. For the day, I'm hearing this new voice. It was a black girl screaming about they want 10 demands. They had 10 demands. And I don't remember any of the demands except they wanted better food in the cafeteria. They wanted black history. And I'm thinking, well, I don't like the food in the cafeteria. And if you're getting black history, I hope it's true black history. And then they had some other demands that I don't remember. And so we went to school like a normal day, except we didn't really go to the principal's office. We didn't go to the cafeteria, I guess, unless you were really hungry. And the librarian, I was never going there, and it was a normal day. So I go to detention. And as I'm going into, it was like, the movie Breakfast Club or something like that? Wasn't that funny? Well, it wasn't like the Breakfast Club because it was a little different. I was sitting there, and in the glass hallway, Bradley was going back and forth with his hand in the fist. And the teacher who was watching us put his head down. And I thought maybe he was meditating or reading a book. But I looked down. He was afraid. Sure, he's afraid. Because the whole school, those 3 areas had been taken over with bats and chains. I don't even know why some of them stayed. But he knew, maybe he knew more than I did, that somebody had some plans for me that I didn't know about. After detention, everybody skedaddles. I'm the last one leaving. I'm not in any hurry. So the first door to the left is blocked by a couple kids. So I said, hey, well, I'll use another door. And the other hallway door was blocked also by a couple kids. And as I looked down the hallway, there was some more kids blocking that door. The only way I could get out was the front doors of the school. And I thought, well, nobody's blocking that. I guess I'll go out there. And, oh, man. I got all these people talking to me. I'm so sorry that I haven't talked to you. So hold on 1 second. Let me just see what I got here. Hey, Bargoon, how are you? I'm doing fine by God's grace. Thank you for asking. And and we got the gamer here too. And hey, Daniel, what are you talking about? Daniel, what I'm talking about, the thumbnail is bats and chains. They took over. They took over. Black students took over 3 areas: the principal's office, cafeteria, library. That's what I'm talking about. First year of freshman high school, 1970. That's what I'm talking about. Anybody coming in late? Who else we got? Galvin Opez. Hey, hi. By the way, anybody who's watching me, join my club, subscribe, and I'll subscribe to you. Other than that, I got to finish the story. So I push open the doors, and if you go way back 3 years ago, on episode 7, I talk about this in more detail. I'm just narrowing it down to where when I opened up the doors, I said back then it was about 200, 250 people. No, I was off a bit. My numbers, dyslexia. The school itself was half black, half white. Over 2,000 kids. So since the black students took over the cafeteria, the library, and the principal's office with bats and chains, they knew about the hand and the fist. And that's what I'm saying, kids. When a hand and I know you kids don't even get a hand and a fist. You just start fighting in the schoolroom right now, for crying out loud. But back in my day, it was after school, and I'm thinking, well, it's a push because I have detention. No, I opened up the doors, and there was about 1,000 kids, black students, waiting for Uncle Martin. And I'm thinking, it must be a mistake. They can't be waiting for me. I didn't do anything, but Tom sold the salt, and I was a friend of Tom. Be careful on who you say your friends are, is what I'm saying. It's very important. Your parents tell you, kids, pick your friends wisely, because if they can't get your friend, they will go for you. This is the law, not only in the West, but even back east, which was my situation in New Jersey in 1970. So I'm pushing the doors open, and I'm walking down the steps, because I see Bradley out there, and it's like a big circle already. Actually, it looks like a Leo sign. Goes out that way, goes all the way down to the fence, or the big iron doors, and it goes back to, it looked like a big Leo sign. And then, well, I am a Leo, so I kind of noticed that in the back of my mind. As I'm going down the stairs, I see Bradley jumping around with his hands in the fist, and I said, okay, no problem. I'm going to take care of this guy. Because, as you know or don't know, I had many issues with 20 schools that I had to deal with individuals. That's another story. If you ever go back someday, you'll see. But right now we're just talking about this one. And as I get down there, he's saying, oh no. He screams out, let's do to this guy what we did to the other guy yesterday. I'm thinking, I remember the story. I didn't know it was Tucky, that other altar boy I just knew he was in the hospital. I didn't know it was for 2 weeks and all the concussion and broken stuff he had to go through. And by the way, Tucky never did go back to school. He went to another school. I didn't realize that until later, too. So I'm thinking in my mind, I kind of remember somebody mentioning that somebody got beat up yesterday, got circled, and was in the hospital. And now this guy Bradley doesn't want to fight me one-on-one, which you're supposed to do if you're fighting somebody. You have to fight. And as you remember, my dad had only like 4 rules. Never, ever, ever hit a girl, obviously. But I'm looking on not TikTok, but like X, and some guy is punching girls, and the teachers. Man, anyway, he probably didn't hear about that rule. And then we got the second rule, which is Dad said, I don't ever want to see you start a fight. I don't want to ever see you run from a fight. And the next rule was if you're going to fight or have to fight, ask him to arm wrestle first. And at this point, Bradley wasn't going to be arm wrestling with me, all right? Now, the fourth rule was Dad said if it's going to be ring around a Rosie, which it was, with about 1,000 black students with me, Dad said, you got to go to the biggest guy and knock him out. And I'm thinking, okay, so I'm looking around the whole ring around a Rosie, and I see this biggest black guy. And I notice, I found out later by the first day, the guy that his name that I played basketball with, 3 rounds of it was around the world and horse, and I won one. That was Moon, and I found out in the first day that was Moon that I played basketball with, and he stayed back a lot. That's why he was so big. He stayed back a lot, and I think he was a senior, so he had some credibility. And now I have to go over and knock out Moon. I'm thinking I played basketball with this guy. I don't want to knock him out, let alone I have to jump up to hit him in the face. So I went down to the bottom of the stairs and I said, now I'm totally encircled, and I scream out, hey, Moon! And everybody's saying, somebody screamed out, who's this cracker? And I'm thinking, that's kind of negative. And I said, again, Moon! And it was like E.F. Hutton. Everybody stops and wants to know what Moon is going to say. And Moon says, yeah. I said, hey, Moon, this is just between me and Bradley, right? Now everybody's waiting to hear what Moon has to say. And Moon says, yep. What am I talking about? Daniel, I'm talking about I'm being surrounded by 1,000 black students that are ready to tear me apart. And I get this fella that I played basketball with, and that's what it took forever for him to say yep. But he was calculating in his mind that what Tom did, selling that salt to Bradley, he knew that I wasn't involved just by the b-ball that we did play, okay? That's what it came down to. He assessed my character. I know some people say I am a character, but the essence of my character, Moon was assessing to say, yep, it's only between Bradley and me. At that point, man, I was elated that I was going to be able to fight this guy one-on-one rather than 1,000 kids. They were going to probably circle me and put me in the hospital, for crying out loud. So it was very serendipitous that I was able to stop and play basketball with this guy. So it comes down to me and Bradley. He's jumping around like Muhammad Ali, because Muhammad Ali in 1970, if you remember, he jumped around a lot with his feet, and he stung like a butterfly or a bee, or all that. I think Muhammad Ali was the best fighter in the world, but I did an episode on that. So anyway, as Bradley's jumping around, I'm looking at his feet. I'm saying, hey, and then he pops me in the mouth, and he breaks skin, and I'm bleeding on my lip. All this blood on my shirt, and I don't know who that was. All the blood on my shirt the Sons of Hercules went through me, and I had this extra strength of adrenaline to where I've never hit anybody to this day with all my strength. And I said, well, where am I going to hit this guy? So I just came down and hit him in the chest with about half my strength. He folded down to his knees, and I saw in his face that he really didn't want to fight me from the beginning, let alone after he felt my power of putting him down to that direction. He didn't want to fight anymore. So my dad said, no matter win or lose on your fighting, always shake hands, because it's good sportsmanship. I remember, if you go back to I had my first fight in kindergarten. It was my fault. I had to stay after school. So that's where Dad gave me all these rules. So I said, hey, you know what? I'm bleeding. I got a little blood on my chest. I put my hand out. He jumped up, shook my hand, and I just couldn't let it go. I had to shake his hand a little stronger to let him know what Uncle Martin had. I could have crushed his hand, but it was negative, so I let go. Before I let go, I looked around. Everybody was smiling. Know why? Because there was a fight. When this hand is in the fist at your school, you're going to get a fight. And that's the way it is. So all you kids out there, follow this closely. Hopefully it's one-on-one. If it isn't, if it's ring around the rosy like that, but probably a smaller amount of people, you go over to the biggest guy and knock him out. At least by doing that, you'll stun them, they'll break the chain, and you can get out of the chain to go where you have to. I'm saying that after this happened, first of all, everybody's smiling, everybody went home. The next day, I have all these bullies from 10th, 11th grade, nobody from the 12th grade. I'm only a freshman, and they all want to be my friends. Why is that? Because once you do something like this, stand up to a bully, you become well known, you know? And then it's up to you whether or not you will become the next bully or you'll stand to where it doesn't happen anymore. And that's exactly what happened in this situation. There was no more ring around the rosy. There was no more fighting after school. All this kind of stopped. And I go into this on when I was in 6th grade and I had to deal with a 9th grader. I got so many of these true stories because I went to 20 schools and everybody wanted a piece of me before I got out of my first day usually. But I'm just giving you a little segment of bats and chains when the kids did take over 3 areas of my freshman high school. And I'm going in 27 minutes. I'm sorry it's so long. And I just got to go back. Daniel, you keep asking what I'm talking about. You're not listening. Daniel, you're going to have to go back to the beginning. Don't have time for that. And let's see. Gaming, hey. And Uncle, how are you doing today? So everybody that's still out there, if you join my club, which is subscribe to me, I'll subscribe to you. I know a lot of people didn't push the button to show you yourself because you're afraid. We got to overcome fear. Yeah, someday. Fear or faith. Mom brought us up to understand that you have 2 choices, to go with fear or faith. Mom also said, all fear is faith turned inside out. So turn it around and go for the faith. You'll have a better foundation than fear. There's too many people out there dealing with fear. You're still wearing I don't want to go political. You got to let it go. When are you going to breathe the air? It's a rabbit hole. When do you come back? Go to faith, and it'll be your test. So until we see each other again, one last thing. There was never ever a fight the rest of the year of Ring Around a Rosie. There wasn't any more fights that I remember where people were put in the hospital. So it was a big thing. So the kids took over principal's office, cafeteria, and library with bats and chains. And I got stuck after school with detention. And it was just big stuff, I guess, on that day where everybody remembered it, you know? So, you kids that are fighting in school, I have one thing to say. Wait until after school. It's only because my parents were teachers, my mom and dad. And they would not appreciate you fighting in their schoolroom. They would have not put up with it. So I don't know what these teachers are doing now, letting you get away with this, let alone watching it, let alone videoing it. This is like really hurting my heart. So stop it, all right? And wait until after school. Till I see you again, be well. God victory. Thanks for hanging out so long. It's been a half hour of enjoyment for me, hopefully for you. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Join my club. I'll join yours. Take care. I'll see you soon.